In the legal world, there is a combination of forces that feed a corrupt and suffocating legal system for attorneys. Law schools, law professionals, judges, and even the firms themselves for whom you work create a system, a matrix, if you will, that is nothing like what you thought when you passed the bar exam. The purpose of this podcast is to help you escape this legal matrix, leading you out of the proverbial desert to be free of the bondage of the matrix. Hosted by Bryce D. Nyer, attorney at law with over 30 years experience in the trenches of civil and criminal litigation at the state, federal, and international levels. He's a highly accomplished and resourceful legal professional, a true master of his craft, and he's here to help you get your life back. Here's your host, Bryce D. Nyer.
Hello. It's Bryce D. Nyer coming at you with another episode of Escape the Legal Matrix. An attorney's exodus from... Let's get that right. An attorney's exodus from what? From bondage. That's right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be located. And what we're going to talk about this morning, is this issue of temptation and backsliding. I know it's a topic that people really don't want to talk about, but too bad. We're going to talk about it anyway. You want to know why we're going to talk about it? Because I want to talk about it, and so do you. And it happens to everybody. This thing of temptation, this thing of backsliding. I mean, let's talk about it. Come on, let's have this conversation, because somewhere in your life, maybe even right now, you're being tempted to do something you shouldn't do. Or maybe you're backsliding into a bad habit or a sin or something that you used to be involved in that you fought off, and now it's just pulling you back. See, that's what the legal matrix wants. That's what it does. It wants to tempt you to take you off course of your journey to freedom, to the promised land. It wants you to backslide into being weak and oppressed and a slave. But that's not what you're going to do. You're not. Because the legal matrix, as we talked about in earlier episodes, it's like this lion prowling the world, kind of like Satan does, for victims, to devour them. And it's not hard to tempt people. It's not hard for people to backslide into their old habits, into bad habits. I've done it. You've done it. You know you have. Admit it. Okay? I mean, the first step in any recovery of anything is like, I got a problem. What are the facts of where I'm at? I'm like, oh, hell, man, I'm back where I started. And it sucks. It's a crappy place to be. So let's talk about it. This all started back, if you go back like in Scripture, to the Garden of Eden. Now, some people don't believe in God. Some people don't believe in Scripture. Some do. I mean, but let's just assume for this conversation that it's all true, that when God created the heavens and the earth, and then he eventually created humans and put Adam and Eve, in this beautiful place, this Garden of Eden, and that he said, look, there's a tree of knowledge, and you don't need to go near it, and you don't need to eat the fruit of the tree, the apple. And then Satan comes in as this form of a snake that talks and tells Eve, listen, you don't have to listen. You can do whatever you want. Go ahead. It's okay. And she does. And all of a sudden, everything transforms and changes, and she sees things and feels things that she didn't before. And she tempts Adam. Adam takes a bite of the apple, and then he has this transformation, and then sin enters the world, and they see each other naked, and they feel embarrassed, and they feel fear because they have disobeyed God, because they have eaten the fruit from the tree of knowledge. Now, in your life, there's clearly every human being is tempted to do things, whether it's smoke cigarettes, whether it's do drugs, whether it's have a drink underage, race a car down a highway, disobey your parents, sneak out, have a party while your parents are away, premarital sex, whatever it is. All of us have been tempted. And all of us at one time or another have given into a temptation. And these temptations, when they're given into, can have consequences. And most of the time, they're not good. They're B-A-D, bad. And they have a fallout. Everything we do or fail to do, there's some sort of fallout. And for those that can overcome temptations, for those that overcome adversity, for those that learn the hard lessons of life when all hell on earth breaks loose, when you give into temptations and you do your course correction and you come out of this pit to your sedations and your addictions and what you're doing wrong, and you set yourself on a path of truth, of operating and living in truth, then there comes a time when it's the second half, and that's what we call the backsliding. And it happens to all of us. You're cruising along, life's going good, you're on top of the world, or at least you feel you're on top of the world, but then something comes up, and you start to be like, why not? And you start to make excuses of, yeah, why not? And you do it. And then consequences come along, and then you feel this shame and you feel this guilt. It's a horrible feeling. It's happened in my life. I've done it. I've gone down the backslide of life and repeated something or done something that I shouldn't have done or something I shouldn't have said. And it's a crappy feeling. It's a dark place to be in. And even God warns in the Bible about, backsliding. People that in the end days, people will backslide. It happens. It's an ever constant thing of fighting the temptations in life. I mean, let's look at the world today. So you look around you in the world today, and there's so much noise out there. I mean, from the TVs to your smartphones, to your iPads, to your computers, you're being flooded with so many messages, with so many visuals that it just makes your head explode. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the internet or having a phone or a computer. I mean, everything, in moderation is okay. It's when it becomes obsessive and excessive and you start letting it control you, and it takes you to places and makes you think things or do things that you shouldn't think and things that you shouldn't do. And then you do. What do? You do it. I mean, think about, for most of you, the first time that you're like, hey, man, you can smoke the cigarette, and you did it. Maybe you're in junior high school, and your parents told you not to do it, but you did it anyway. Or think about, the first time you drank some beer or a drink, and you're like, yeah, man, we're only 16 or 17, we're going to a party, and you knew you weren't supposed to do it. I mean, think about those things. Or you knew, like, hey, man, she's hot or he's hot, and we're in love, we're 17, blah, 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 all that kind of crap. And you have premarital sex. And then you feel guilty, or maybe you don't. Then you think you're in love, but really what it turns out to be is this obsession until you break up and you realize a couple years later, boy, that was stupid, but it's your hormones and you're tempted. And then, some things, unwanted things can happen. Some bad things can happen when you give in to those types of temptation. Then you go along in life because you're like, oh, okay, it's lessons learned. I won't do it again, but you do. And maybe this time it's a little bit worse. You find this a lot in life because the worldly things, they want you, they tempt you. The legal matrix is comprised of worldly things. Buy the shiny things, don't worry about tomorrow. Just do it. It feels good. Just do it. That used to be the mantra, like in the 60s and the 70s. Just, if it feels good, just do it. Well, yeah, a lot of things feel good, but it doesn't mean it's good for you. I like Mountain Dew, but I don't drink it anymore because I'm on a fitness program. It's not good for you. It can rot your teeth. It's too much sugar, but it's great. People used to be like, free sex and stuff. Yeah, until sexually transmitted diseases started eating people away at parts of their body. They're like, I need that. I need that. And so you can get train wrecked. You can get train wrecked when you give in to temptation and when you backslide. And there's warning signs. In one of our earlier episodes, we talked about, the warning signs, heeding them, kind of like the Doppler radar that warns you of the, incoming storms like the hurricanes or the winter storms. You have alert systems that are internal to you, that are part of your makeup, part of your soul, your brain and your heart. I mean, when something says, it's just not right, and you've got that feeling, well, it probably isn't. It isn't right. And that's what you're going to face, law students. That's what's going to face you, new lawyers. And maybe some of you lawyers have been out there, but you're still, you're still relatively young, however you want to define young. And you're going to have these temptations to do things that you shouldn't do, but you do them anyway. And you've got to have the skill sets, and you've got to understand that you've got to fight. Every day is a fight in today's world. Because it used to be years ago, to tempt somebody, you didn't have the click of a mouse. You didn't have iPads, smartphones, computers, anything. You had to either be physically present with somebody if that's what you were doing or who you were doing, or you were at a bar drinking and getting drunk or doing something that just wasn't good for your domains of body, being balanced in business, which obviously led to no fulfillment when you were destroying it. And this is what happens in the legal profession, this legal matrix. The legal matrix, again, it's just full of temptation. It wants you to accept the offer of temptation. It wants you to go down that road, so it compromises you and keeps you in this bondage, this slavery. It keeps you in this fear. And then eventually, if you start to break free, it wants you to backslide. And these two components, these two things of temptation and a backsliding are some of the biggest challenges and obstacles that you are going to face on a daily basis. And you're most certainly going to face it as a lawyer. Every day. You're going to want to take shortcuts. You're going to be fed up. You're going to be tired. You're going to say things you don't mean. You're going to go have another drink just to sedate and numb the pain. You're going to sit on your computer and you're going to watch porn because your marriage went to shit, because your relationships went to shit, because they're bad. They're bad. Your life is bad because the worldly things are taking over. And it doesn't even have to be that bad. It doesn't have to be like all alcoholism or drugs or illicit sex or relationships or porn or anything. It could be something simple. Maybe you I need to work out this morning, but you don't do it. You're tempted to sleep in. And then it turns into another morning. I'll do it tomorrow. And then pretty soon you've gained another 2 pounds and you've backslid into where you were before. It's not hard to do. It's not hard for any of us to do. There are days and months and weeks sometimes where I just in years of my life where I'm I just don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this. I just want to go do this, and this. And I start to be tempted into backsliding into the easy life. And if you're ever going to accomplish anything, if you're ever going to be the best version of who you are, you have to fight this temptation and the backsliding, because nothing worthwhile in life is easy. It's not. Life is not easy. And most of us know that. Some have life easier than others, that are born into wealth, trust fund babies, that sort of thing. But they're still going to have sedations and pits. The only difference is the number of zeros behind their bank accounts. But every human is created in the image of God. Every human is tempted. Every human is born. Every human will die. Those are facts. Facts that you can't beat those facts. That's just absolute fact. And in between the date of birth and your time of death, everything is a variable. And there'll be temptations every moment, every day. There'll be times in your life when you will backslide, and you have to get up. You have to pick yourself up, and you've got to say, I can't do this. I can't. This old version of me, this destructive version of me, it has to die. There has to be this rebirth, this new version of me. And this battle, I've got to get in the war. I've got to get off the bench. This is what we're talking about when we're escaping the legal matrix. Your life does not have to be one big continued pit. It doesn't have to be one big continued sedation. It doesn't have to be this abyss of darkness of where you give in to temptation and you backslide and you never make any progress. I know. I've lived it. I understand. I have fought the legal matrix my whole life, my whole career. And now in today's world, with the legal system being used as this weapon of vindictive litigations to silence those that live and operate in truth. And what it does is it tempts you and it makes you backslide to being this weaker version of who you used to be. But you don't have to be like that. Your life doesn't have to be contained. It doesn't have to be controlled. You don't have to be a slave to the court system, to your clients, to your teams, to anybody. You just have to be free, and you just have to live and operate in truth. And that is going to be the hardest thing that you will do every day of your life, to live and to operate in truth, to face the facts that at one point or another you have given into temptation, that you have sinned, that you've done something wrong, and that there was fallout, and that you have probably at one time or another, you have gone into this backsliding. And for some, they snap out of it. But it is a constant battle. It is something that you have to be awake to. It is something you have to be alert to. It is something you have to war with. You must war with the legal matrix. If you're going to be a lawyer, if that is what you're going to be, whether you litigate or you don't go in the courtroom, you are going to be faced every day with a temptation of one sort or another. You are going to want to backslide at some point into a past behavior or a past belief. And if you don't have the skill sets, if you don't know how to fight it, if you don't know how to thrive in these domains of body, of being, of balance, of business, and fulfillment, the legal matrix will keep you a prisoner and you will never, ever be free. You will die every day, a slow and painful death, and you don't even know it. You'll be like that frog that's in the pan on the oven, and they slowly turn up the heat, slowly but slowly. The frog doesn't know he's going to be boiled to death, because he's not awake and he's not alert and he's not paying attention. He's basically backsliding. I'm just floating in water and it's cool. It's a little warm. It's getting a little warm, but I'm okay. I'm okay. And the frog is not paying attention. Don't be the frog. Don't be the frog. Temptation, backsliding. These are real things in a real world. They happen in the legal matrix. It's part of the legal matrix weapon system. It's an effective weapon. It destroys many law students. It destroys many lawyers. It destroys many human beings, no matter what their profession is. So I'm going to ask you the better question. Where in your world right now are you being tempted and are you giving into it? Where in your world right now are you backsliding? And if you are, what steps are you taking to stop it? What are you doing that you should not be doing? What are you not doing that you should be doing? These are the better questions. These are the questions that you have to ask yourself every single day, every moment, every hour, every day, every week, every month, every year. It never stops. It's a constant war. It's a constant fight. But you can win this war. You can win the battles. You can do it. It starts with a conversation with me. We're building an army of lawyers that live and operate in truth. A place that we can come to, that we can talk and we can be open and we can be honest and we can be transparent and we can talk about the pits and we can talk about the sedations and we can talk about the obstacles and we can talk about the temptations and we talk about the backsliding and we can come up with solutions where we can have weekly fires and monthly missions and impossible games. And we don't have to be like every other lawyer in the legal matrix. We can be unique. We can have this warrior DNA inside of us that says, not today, Satan, not today, not today, not today, not today, not today, not any day. Body, being, balance, business, fulfillment, the process and the pain. It's a war. We're in a war. It's a real war. It's a cultural war. It's a civil war. It's a spiritual war. It's a physical war. It's a mental war. It's an emotional war. And you have to have the skill sets. I know. I've been fighting this war a long time. I know the enemy. The enemy knows me, and we're at war. All right, this is Bryce T. Nyer coming at you from Fayetteville, North Carolina, home of Fort Bragg. You've got to ask the better question. Where are you in your world? What are the temptations you're facing right now? Are you backsliding or not? And if you are, what actions are you taking? Answer those questions. Write them down. So until next episode of Escape the Legal Matrix and getting away from the bondage and the pharaohs that want to keep you down and chained in bondage in the legal matrix. We're going to fight it. We're going to war with it. You got to join up. All right, Bryce T. Nyer. Hey, love and light, and we are out of here.